This is Art Dust with Glenda Gibson and DonnaDrouin, and we're going to talk about our studios today. So Donna, tell me about your studios, your first studio and your studios you've had since then.
I had a studio space at university. It was just basically 3 white walls. Well, they weren't walls. I don't know. They're 3 white boards in a giant, like an old mill studio. So they used to teach textiles in there, and they used to make the textile mill machines in this college. It was built for that, and so when they stopped teaching that, they stripped it out, made it into a painting studio. So the floor had all these funny little things on it. But yeah, it was just basically 3 giant 7-foot boards that were just these big white boards, and you were responsible for them whilst you were in the painting studio. And it was kind of, it was sort of like, you know, and everyone had these funny little cubicles that you painted in. And I had that for 3 years. I did a residency in a primary school, and they gave me a weird sort of like, it wasn't a classroom, it was like an offshoot room. And they gave me a space and said, work in there. And then that's what I did. And then when I finished uni and we moved to the flat, I just had a table, and I had like a little table, really tiny table. But I didn't really, and I just had an easel and a table and a set of drawers. And my equipment has grown as it does. And then when my eldest son was born, my husband built a shed. So I've had a shed for about 18 years. And the shed kind of doesn't really get used in winter. It's very small. I'm very grateful for it, but it is, I can't put any paper out there because snails will get in and they'll just eat paper. They chew on the edges. So even if I've got any works that are paper works are all stored in plastic boxes with desiccated salts and lids and extra padding and stuff to make sure it's all. So I don't do printing out there. I just do painting out there. And I do all my printmaking inside in the kitchen here. So the view behind me is my kitchen, but I'm actually sat talking to you from my art desk, which is an old altar table from the local church. They were having it all modernized so that disabled people can access the altar, which is, you know, very essential. And this was going to be destroyed, and I rescued it, and it's just the right height for standing at. And I also have a sheet of glass on top of it, so that I can ink up, and I work off this sheet of glass. And then the top half of my desk is, so the floor to ceiling space. I have equipment stored underneath that I use for teaching classes, and that comes in and out. And I have it all set up according to my flow. So I have everything that I need within reach. So I have some brushes and rollers, and I have papers, and then I have bits of printmaking supplies. And then I have pencils and drawing kit here. I have some ink sundries in there. And then I have inks up there. And I have a small amount of textile stuff, glues, scissors, cutting stuff. And then my inks that I've been using a lot, I tend to have whatever I'm working on currently, the equipment for that tends to come out to here. So I've been doing a lot of cola pen drawing. So at the moment, there is a pot of cola pens beside me. And I actually have a tiny, very cute dustpan and brush from my desk. So because when you're printmaking and carving, you get a lot of tiny bits off of, you know, this piece of liner that I've carved for a test, but you get all these strips and you can't have them going into your ink. So yeah, and then on here I have a stand for my phone and a lamp, a very good lamp, an LED light lamp that's got, like, I don't know, silly amount of light settings. But yeah, that's how I have it set. So the stuff that's the furthest and most awkward to get to is the stuff I use least, and the stuff I use all the time is right so I can just work without having to think, oh, where's this, where's that. It's all very planned.
Yeah. So your studio is just the end of your kitchen, isn't it?
It is.
You're next to the fridge on one side and the back patio door on the other side. And the cat under your feet.
Actually, he is probably on my printing press, which is sitting on the end of the kitchen table. He is taken to hiding under my cloth, thinking, oh, this is a great game.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I have a stack of books that I'm reading and working my way through beside me over there.
Yeah. And you also you've got a lovely table, wooden table, as your dining room table, and you use that, but your husband uses that and your children use that. So
yes, we all use it. Yeah.
It's a battle, isn't it, to have your space?
Yeah, they know not to use my desk unless I'm doing something that, I'm saying to them, oh, look, would you like to have a go at? Like we did a monoprinting one evening, and I was doing monoprint. I'd been printing up some dry points, and because I'd put the ink out on the table to put onto the plates, because you do that by hand and not with a brayer or a roller. So I said, and I then inked up the table because there was enough ink on the table. I rolled it out, and then I did some monoprints, and I said to the kids, would you like to come and have a go? So they know that that's an invite only operation. They know that to be on mum's desk is, they have to ask. So if they take scissors, I have to have a constant amnesty on scissors, because it's like, where are the scissors? What have you done with them? I've even taken to putting sticky tape on them so they know that mummy needs these. But yeah, I know.
Yeah, I had that same thing. I found 12 pairs of scissors in my daughter's bedroom when I cleaned it out. Every now and then they'd bring one back, but anyway.
Yeah. Oh, my random thing I have on my desk is that my grandpa's old magic one from when he was a magician. So I have that. That sits amongst my printmaking kit. But it's my random. I have a few random, like
you have a few. I was going to say that you have mice, dinosaurs.
Oh, my first pigeon crow that I made.
Oh yes. Yes. So Donna learned to do sewing. That was hilarious, and she's made birds, and she wanted to put a gusset in. The rest of us just did a little flat thing, but she wanted it to have a gusset.
I wanted it to be 3D and to stand, which it does.
Oh, yeah. So, because typical of Donna, she is wanting to do something a little extra, a little different, or a little out there. They're marvelous birds, and she sold most of them.
Yeah, I've got a couple left, but that's it.
Yeah. So that was a great event. My birds are very basic, because I didn't push it any further. I just wanted to have cute knees and tied bows in the knees, didn't I?
Yeah.
Anyway. Right. Well, studios for me, I guess in high school, the last time I was in any sort of formal education with art is there was just a communal art space, and we had a cupboard with spaces in it that we could put our canvases in when we weren't in the classroom. But it was a new school. There was a lot of space. We had a separate area for enameling, and a separate area for drawing, and a separate area for pottery. And then we had areas where we could set up our, I don't know what we stood them on. I don't think they were easels. I think we sort of had something else that we put our canvases on to paint. And what was lovely about that is I love oil painting. I'm an oil painter, but in high school I did oil painting, but they came in big pots of oil paint. It was amazing. You could just use all these great globs of paint. I did a massive painting for my A levels, all oils. So that was lovely. But to be honest, once I left school, up until about 2006, I only painted on my kitchen table, or my desk, actually, my kitchen table. And it would mostly be just watercolors, and I just get it out and do a painting and put it away. It was partly because I had children that I put things away. I never got around to training them like Donna's trained hers. But I don't think I didn't see myself as an artist then. My goal and my calling was to be a teacher. So it wasn't. It's always been important to me, but it wasn't the thing that was important for my time at that part of my life. And then in 2006, God said, develop yourself as an artist. And so I started taking it all a little bit more seriously. And I now live in a 4-bedroom house with just my husband, and because I'm an empty nester. And I took up a small room upstairs, a box room, they call them here in England, the little room above the stairs. And I started painting in there on an easel. And then my husband took over that room for his office. It was a small room, good size for an office. And I put all my stuff in another small room at the back of the house. But I didn't actually work in there because it was too small. It was just where all my stuff went. And I had a lot of stuff. But I could store my old canvases there and all my equipment and things that I needed. And then in 2016, I decided to have a gallery space in my dining room, which isn't very big. It's similar size to the room I'm in. I don't know, what is this, 13 by 12 or something feet. And my dining area became my gallery, and the light was so good in there that after a while I decided, when the gallery moved to my friend's place, Diane's place, who had lots more space to hang out, I decided to make that my studio because the light was so good and I already had hanging strings in there. But after I did a Kate Green course and really thought about what I wanted from my art and what I needed as a studio, I decided to move into the room I'm in now. This is the front room, and in England they often have the posh sitting front room, and this is that with a 1950s fireplace under the table because I've been able to put the table right up against it. So I've moved into this. I've never used it as a posh room. It's always been a spare bedroom or something like that. So it is now my studio, and it does have good light. I've put a natural bulb light in the room as well. In here, I've got most of my things stored, but I also store some stuff out in my garage, things that are not going to be damaged by damp or by the cold and snails. I don't have snails in my garage, but then probably I haven't put in the right food. Yeah, so I've got a lot of equipment in here and my art books, and a nice big table to work at. I work at 2 easels, but what I really wanted from this room was, because I work in oil paint, my paintings take a long time to dry. So while I'm waiting for a painting to dry, I want to do some more painting. Mm-hmm. So because I already had the strings for hanging from my gallery space, I moved one of those in here, and I can hang up my drying artworks on those strings and wait for them to dry. So yeah, I feel really fortunate. I ripped up the horrible, ugly brown carpet, which I'd already got a big blob of green paint on, and I've put down some vinyl flooring, and yeah, everything's good, really. But as Ali Gordon says, we always all want a bigger studio.
Yeah.
But so what is our ideal studio, Donna? What's your ideal studio? And maybe what's your realistic next studio?
Oh, I don't know about my realistic studio, but my dream studio is to have a room with I suppose I quite like quite a long room with tables in the middle that I can ink up on. So like ink up the so I can have I'd like to have carving spaces under windows. I'd like to have it really lots of light along one side, so I can actually put all my I can carve and I can mix up my inks, and I can, for me, it's about having lots of surfaces, because I'd like to be able to lay out papers flat, and I'd like to be able to lay out my lino flat, and I'd like to not have to worry about I'd like to be able to go between my carving surface and my inking surface. At the moment, I have to do all my carving and then I do all my printing. I can't do carving and printing. I have to do it all in a block because I have this small space. So if I had a room that I could lock the door and nobody could go in, then my scissors would be safe forever. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be able to have a printmaking studio with a big press. I mean, that would be the thing. I'd love a big press. I mean, I've looked at loads of presses, and the gunning presses are amazing because they're all geared and they're like no effort. My press requires all my effort to use because it's got no gearing, and I'd like a press with some gearing that would. There's still effort required, but I really have to push it through myself. It's my own power that I do it on. But yeah, and it's somewhere to be able to store stuff without it being worried about it being damaged. Because I think, I've had paintings where small boys have thrown toy cars at them and put holes through canvases. I'd like to be able to have a secure room where I can just leave paintings to dry and not worry about them. And yeah, but my space would have lots of long, flat, good height spacer, so that I could actually have nice big surfaces and lots of light.
And you do have some printing presses, small ones. One that Paul made for you, and it takes up one of the benches in your kitchen. One of them. But yes, you need space for presses, don't you? Really?
Yeah, and they're bulky bits of kit. They're an easel I can fold up and put away. It's not, it doesn't really take up anything more than 12 inches of floor space, really. But yeah, a press is a big piece. You're just talking about, they're like table sized. They're big. There's no getting around them. And to be able to do big prints, you need decent pieces of reliable, consistent kit. I think and that requires a serious amount of investment, because to build a permanent space, I mean, I don't have a garden big enough to put anything else in it. My husband has a workshop and a garage, and I have my shed. So yeah.
And a caravan and 3 cars. The son has a car.
So that's not Paul's car.
Yeah. So there is size. So you would be happy. So the question that's hanging on my lips is why I'm stuttering and fluttering is, would you want your studio to be in your house, out your back door, or would you be happy to be able to walk to or drive to or commute to a studio? Would that feel better for you or not?
I would prefer it if it was because if I had a studio at home that was a separate, like say garage, if it was the garage, that would be really good, because I could put water in there, and that's all I need. I need access to water and light and flat surfaces, really.
Yeah.
I don't really need a great deal more than that. So Yeah, I mean, a space at home. I mean, if you've got a space at home, you've always got that cost saving. You're not renting somewhere. You know, if you own another building, you've got to pay another whole load of building stuff. So,
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, I was listening to some people yesterday on a podcast who one only lives about 3 minutes away and the other one lives about a half an hour away to their studios. But the fact that they've got to get in their car and know what they're taking and know how long they're going to be away is it's a barrier to actually going and using their studio. And I feel so fortunate. My studio is in my house. I can get up in the middle of the night and have a little twiddle and a tweak at my my paintings. So my dream studio would be bigger, but it would still be in my house. In fact, I'd like the bottom floor of my house to be studio, gallery space, workshop space, shop.
yes.
And then to live above that, in
Yeah.
So that it was just very accessible for me and very accessible for other people as well. So that's my dream. And of course, it'll have to be in a place where people would want to come to look at art, I guess, as well. Which it isn't always here in Boddisford. I'm quite out of the way, which was one of the issues with having a gallery here. It wasn't easily visible or findable for people.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to be able to, if I had a big printmaking studio, I'm not saying big, I'm just saying like a decent sized room. And in my head, that's not a very large room, but it'd be big enough to be able to host a couple of people to come and do workshops in. So, yeah, I do sometimes look at people on YouTube and go, oh, look at the size of their studio. That's enormous. That's huge. And I'm like, and then I realised they've moved to the middle of absolutely nowhere, and they have this, to where the house, land value is much cheaper, or they live in the States. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's why. But
yeah,
they don't live here.
Well, and they don't have children either, because your rooms are full.
Yes, there are a lot of people in this small house. Yeah.
I mean, when I had 5 children, this room was where my 2 boys slept, and the rooms upstairs were where my girls slept.
Yeah.
And the little room at the very back, which was a storeroom, that's where my husband's study was. So it's only now that I'm an empty nester I've been able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having a storeroom is quite good, though. Having a storeroom for art is really handy, because then it's not in your, you've got a workspace and a store space.
Yeah.
Where I've seen people do that. They've had like a little wall at the back. Is it Kate Green? I think she had a wall at the back of her studio.
Oh yeah, she did. Yeah.
Yeah, and she
built a false wall that she could walk around behind, and that's where she stored everything. But on the other side, it was people could come and look in the studio and see all the nice stuff. And because my studio, you see all the stuff, everything.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, it is all good.
Yeah. So it's worth thinking about your space and what your next space needs to be and what you want to do. This is our studio work. I do most of my work in the studio. Donna doesn't. Yeah. She does a lot out and about anyway.
I do. I carry a kit bag and then take it with me.
Yeah. We've talked about that on a previous podcast.
We have.
Yeah. Well, is that enough?
I was going to say is and when you set up your studio, you shuffle around in it for quite some time, because you realise, like this desk, I realised I needed somewhere to keep like stuff separate from. So I divided my kit into stuff I used for workshops, and stuff that stuff that's used for workshops is not my kit, and then there's my kit. So I have 2 sets of stuff. So I have kit that lives in boxes underneath, but I have it set up so it's always, and that the thing about the flow state when you're working and you don't want to be having to stop to go and hunt for something, you want to have it so it's set up so you can just get on and work. And that makes it more, so even if, like, you know, the kids have gone to bed, I can go over to my desk and work because I'm just in here. But actually having your stuff set up so it's easy to work at is really important. So I'm always doing myself a favour and going, right, tonight I'm going to tidy up my desk so it's ready, or set up my stuff ready for the next day. So I do a lot of that so that I, you know, because I'm mum, so my schedule starts at like 9:30 in the morning pretty much. But by the time I've done, you know, made sure the kids have left for school and then cleared up all the breakfast stuff and done all, you know, the boring mum jobs. Once I've done the boring mum jobs, and then I can then work. I've got that time to work, but it, you know, I'm then interrupted again when it gets to the other end of 3 o'clock, and then it's like, Mum, I'm hungry. You know, they come home from school, and it's that routine then starts. Or, you know, like Wednesday's the night where we have to be 5 people in our house. You know, somebody's always going in and out of the house because, you know, my eldest son works, so he will need lifts to and from work. And then there's another one that does, you know, they've got Irish dancing, and another one's got guides. And then, you know, you just kind of have that evening. But I think everybody has that evening. But that's the evening where I just go, I'm working tonight. That's not happening.
Oh, yeah. All right. That's our studios, and I think we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And I'll see you in the next podcast. Bye. Thanks for listening.